everybody knows what's going on with the Enugu State's Electricity Regulatory Commission making that decision to slash or reduce electricity tariffs from what, 209 kilowatt hours to 209 naira per kilowatt hour to 160 effective August the 1st. It's only for band A. Other bands are frozen. And they mentioned that, it's enabled by the government subsidy. We do need to, let's read that quote from the chair of the Enugu State Electricity Regulatory, okay, not the code, sorry. We need to, okay, we have the code anyway. Fine, there it is. So the price is low due to some reasons, and including the fact the federal government is subsidizing electricity generation costs, which comes to a cost of about 45 naira out of the actual 112 for Enugu State. That was how we came about the average tariff of 94 as cost-reflective tariff at our level as a sub-national electricity market. And then he then talked about the power purchase agreement, I think, PPA. It says the actual PPA cost of any power purchase made by main power outside the one subsidized by the federal government through the bulk electricity trader will trigger automatic tariff adjustments to accommodate the PPA price because it will not be subsidized by the federal government. Now, the GENCOs did push back, stating that the math from the Enugu Regulatory Commission is not correct and that they're going to be impacted. They're saying that they're owed 1.2 trillion naira in the first half of the year. The arrears, we thought it was 4 trillion. They're saying it's 5.2. And that's where we are. There's also a statement that has been put out from the Commission of, I think it's the Federal Commission of, there they are, the Forum of Commission of Power Energy in Nigeria, the FOCPEN. They clarified the Enugu tariff reduction. They said not all states will make the same decision and that the action is in line with the Electricity Act and the Constitution. And they're saying the GENCOs will not be impacted. Lots of back and forth. We are happy to have Odion Omonfoman, who is the CEO of New Hampshire Capital Ltd, to talk all things power. He also serves as an advisor on power issues to the government. So, Odion, it's good to see you again. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for making it. Lots to unpack. Maybe we should have had you at the beginning of the show to go all the way. All right, first off, the Enugu decision. Let's start from there.
Well, straight up, the Enugu decision or the tariff order by Enugu State is in line with what was envisaged under the Constitution.
Okay.
Right. And it's also what was envisaged under the Electricity Act 2023 signed by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
Yeah.
I think people now need to realize that decentralization of electricity regulations we are now in that regime.
Right.
So states that have created electricity markets can now decide and implement electricity tariffs within their jurisdiction. People also need to realize that Nigeria now runs two broad electricity markets. One, the wholesale market, which includes the generation and transmission tariffs or markets, and then the subnational market, which actually has the whole gamut, generation, transmission, distribution, but generation within the state. So when it comes to distribution, the tariff decision of states stands regardless.
Okay.
So state regulatory commissions or bureaus have that power to do it, and Enugu State Regulatory Commission has done that.
Okay, but what about, let me take you now to the pushback from the GENCOs who are saying, look, we are generating electricity, we're owed money, there's the Enugu states should not be reducing this amount of money because it's going to impact us. Is it more about the debts that they owed, or what do you make of the GENCO's pushback?
Well, the GENCO's pushback, obviously they have a right to be concerned, but I think it's respectfully misplaced concern.
Okay, tell us why.
Because like I just said, there's a wholesale market regulated by NERC, and then there's the the distribution side of things regulated by the state. The tariff order by Enugu State Regulatory Commission only deals with the distribution value chain.
Right.
The wholesale tariff as given by NERC to the DISCO still remains. But let's situate things very clearly.
Yeah.
Main Power is a subsidiary of a DISCO that serves 5 states in the southeast.
Okay.
So Enugu Electricity Distribution Company controls Abia, Enugu, Imo, Ebonyi, and I've forgotten the last state, and Anambra. So NERC, looking at Enugu, has situated that Enugu DISCO will pay certain amounts for power generation. In that subset, Enugu Regulatory Commission has said, okay, what is the share of Enugu State in that? It has left that intact and has looked at other metrics to say, okay, let's look at your customer base, let's look at your regulatory asset base. Same data that was provided to them. They've come up and they've done a lot of regulatory rigor to get to that part. That is what we don't see when we have a central regulation. I'll shock you. Yeah. Every disco, 11 discos across Nigeria, Bande is 209.50. How's that possible?
It's different metrics across different states. It can't be the same.
So we can't have a tariff system that is a unified tariff. How is that possible when you have different cost structures
it's
for different entities?
Fuel should be the same price everywhere.
That is what we currently operate. So somebody has said, look, let's do regulatory scrutiny of these numbers, right? Let's even see how you arrived at this. But guess what? Nobody has touched the wholesale tariff.
Okay.
So Gencos, I need to assure them, you will get your revenues. What has happened is that based on what the regulatory scrutiny done by Enugu State's Regulatory Commission, they've ascertained that tariff on Bande should be 160. And anybody can go look at what they've done. You can't fault it. By the way, I must say Enugu State, they have, I think, one of the most experienced set of regulators in this country right now.
Okay.
So we trust what they've done.
So they know what they're doing.
They know what they're doing.
Okay, what about the statement that was put out by the Forum of the Commissioners of Energy and Power in Nigeria? I guess that's in line with pretty much what you said. So they are backing Enugu and saying that the decision they've made is correct. So I guess,
I think the core of what the Forum of Commissioners is trying to communicate is, look, that Enugu State has looked at its cost structure of the electricity market and has dropped down Band A is not reflective of what other states will do. For instance, Enugu State is not the first state to issue regulatory tariff orders. Ekiti has done similar, Ondo has done similar, and they kept MITO tariffs.
Gotcha.
Right? So people should not be scared that states will now start to slash tariffs. It's not like that.
When you say people, you mean the Gencos?
Well, the Gencos, and I've heard a lot of commentators speak about it, that this is like the new trend, states will, and everybody's very scared that, well, the subsidy build-up will be there and all that. No. People will now do the regulatory due diligence that should have been done to say, look, how did you arrive at this tariff?
Right.
What is your cost? What is your allowable revenues? How did you get to this point? What are your investment, your customer base? And then you arrive at the tariff that makes sense.
Okay, great.
Right?
I want to take you back. Forgive me. I want to take you back to the Siemens deal, right? And the whole, what was it, 2019 or 2020, when there was supposed to be 13,000 or something, or 25,000 megawatts by, is it 2025 or whatever? But I know Siemens was supposed to bring in some equipment, and this was supposed to help out with the infrastructure and so on. One of the reasons that is being put forward as to why it didn't work out, in addition to some regulatory issues and all that, was that they didn't get buy-in from the states. The states had to put skin in the game. And I ask you that because if we get to a point where, I don't know how long it will take, where we've got mini, transmission grids and all this, every state has to carry their own weights and not have to ride on what the federal government, the wholesale side is doing, won't their costs go up? Well, I'm asking you two questions at once. So I guess you can give me your thoughts on Siemens and that.
I'll break it up. For Siemens is more or less a transmission improvement project where the interface between transmission and distribution, they were going to do it. And that sits on the wholesale side. It has nothing to do with the states or states making an investment. It is a federal government project, not a federation project. So it sits with the federal government. How it's managed sits with the federal government, precisely the Federal Ministry of Power. And states have no involvement in that. Now, one of the biggest arguments and pushback people have said is states are unable to carry subsidies. The first question is, why is there a subsidy in the first place? It is not a federation decision to have subsidies. The federal government said, well, we're going to freeze all the tariffs since 2022. Right. We're going to freeze all the tariffs. We're going to make sure that we manage tariffs. But how has these subsidies been implemented? And we can't see the value add. And states have said, look, we don't want subsidy that is opaque, right? We would rather have a cost-reflective market that serves the needs of consumers and assures fair returns for investors who want to invest in our markets. So subsidy, as we are now seeing it, is a destabilizing factor, because that's the fear here, that if tariffs are depressed in Enugu State, then Enugu Disco will not be able to pay the market, which is not true. So what you want to do is make sure you have an even meal on tariffs, Another point Enugu is saying is, look, the subsidy is within Enugu Disco. Main power is just one state. Why would the people of Enugu State pay more than the people in Abia, Anambra, who now enjoy this federal government subsidy? And one more thing people are missing. If Enugu State had kept the tariff, Band A tariff at that level, the over-recovery wouldn't have gone to MBET. Because MBET has a cap that Enugu must pay, which is like 42%. Yeah. So even if you put you say it's cost reflective, it's only the management of Enugu that will sit down and say, this is fantastic, we have more money, more windfall. Right. It doesn't go up. Yeah. So people must understand these numbers, because MBET has set what you call, or rather NERC has, every disco has what you call distribution remittance obligations. A minimum amount they must pay, and which is like half of the Genco tariffs. Yeah. So even if they over-recover, NEC doesn't see it. These guys sit down and they collect the money. So that's what Enugu State Regulatory Commission is trying to avoid by saying, I won't give you more than you are required to pay to the market. Based on what we've assured, based on what we've given you, you can recover your costs. In fact, you even have excess. Gotcha.
Fantastic. Okay, look, you know what? I'm glad this is happening. Is this good that this decision was made, that we are finally having a decentralization conversation across Nigeria when it comes to power? Has Enugu sparked something here that is like, okay, this is what we should be talking about at the state level?
I think this conversation has been a long time coming. And the reality is that it was being avoided at the federal level. I'm very excited about this because now it will bring us to two issues. The fact that states can now finally start to implement their tariffs and execute it. And then the second conversation on subsidy. Subsidy is a big conversation that nobody really wants to touch. Nobody wants to talk about, because the big elephant in the room, so now let's have a proper conversation around subsidy and about the ability of states to run their markets, and also the structures for them to run an efficient state electricity market, because it dovetails to the national wholesale market. Right. So people must be aligned. But so far, that conversation has been pretty much not on the table up until now, and I'm hoping that people approach the conversation without emotions, with facts, and with a mindset that we must make the power sector work. Otherwise, this fear-mongering on one side will not help anybody.
Okay, so I guess having that conversation now with the subsidy matter, how do we pay off this debts to Gencos? How do we clear? Is it not by raising prices? I mean,
let's be real.
The 209.
I don't know how the federal government will pay it. Now, I'm very careful. I've situated this with the federal government because I don't think they went to states to say collectively we will implement subsidy. The market was regulated by the federal government. Right. So the federal government needs to come out and say, okay, this is how we want to clear it. But here's another thing I think we need to quickly start to have a conversation. States that want to do cost-reflective market, there should be clear rules, so that in the event that a state says, okay, we want to do cost-reflective tariffs, that money should go upstream and not to the disco who just sits there. So I think it's time to have direct conversations to say, okay, state entities enter into PPAs with MBET so that the what you have to pay MBET is clear. Not that you have to pay MBET through the holdco company who already has a set a threshold to pay. So this forces the conversation to how do we solve this teething challenge. It's just a teething challenge. A conversation will solve it. So I'm not sure why everybody's so up in arms and
I'm
pushing.
I'm glad we got you on the show. I'm glad you are calm about this. You are a power sector advisor, so you know this stuff. So that's why you know what the answers are. Okay, so fine. Let's talk about the discos, right? I think we had revenues. The first quarter revenues, I think, reached its highest level in years, and they are attributing it to the higher tariffs for band A. However, there's still, last time I had you on the show was on this matter of meters, right? At the downstream level, the last mile. And I think I want you to make that point you made again. It was an excellent point you made about everybody buying their own meters. The way my mobile phone is my prepaid meter and tells me how much I've used, and when I update my data and voice, if my money runs out, it cuts me off. The government didn't buy my phone for me. I bought my phone myself. So let's talk about meters. There's the revenue. So 553 billion, 9% growth, and then I think we broke it down by viscos. Of course, Echo and Ikeja Disco were leading. So the meters, the discos.
Well, first of all, in terms of these high numbers, these high numbers are because we're seeing a lot more improvement in efficiency, collection efficiencies from utilities, and also the fact that band A tariffs have sort of been stable, and more lower band feeders are being upgraded. That's how it should work.
Yeah.
But however, you then have these issues of improving collection efficiency.
Right.
And that's on one hand.
Yeah.
On the other hand is even the classification of customers, right? You're having a situation whereby customers are classified as a lifeline customers, meaning they pay 4 naira per kilowatt hour. Meanwhile, they're on band A tariffs,
Oh my
band A feeders.
Gosh.
Nobody puts all that. So there's not enough rigor so far to interrogate how the revenue requirement for discos. And I think that has given discos opportunity to say, hey, we may pay, we may not pay.
Gotcha.
But on the aspect of meters, again, I keep saying this, if somebody is connected to a utility network, the minimum you should have is a meter. It's either the customer is able to buy it, or the utility says, I will buy it
and bill you to pay it off.
It's not something that you have to go and sequester money from the federation and say you want to buy 2 million meters thereabouts. And that's why a lot of states are about to address this issue of metering, because a lot of states have said, look, it's 100% metering.
Right.
All we need is the strong will to say, look, we will make sure that before you are connected, go and get a meter. Either the disco is giving you, or you are using your money to buy how much is a meter that people will connect and they can't buy.
Yeah.
On the other hand, we see a disco like Abba Disco. Yeah. They're already metering their customers for free. They have a structure where they've come into an agreement with a number of vendors who would go out, put the meters, and these vendors are allowed to recover.
Fantastic.
It is a no-brainer, but we've made it so big, so convoluted, and I really get tired because the gap is growing.
It is. The
and
meter gap is growing.
Yeah.
Population is growing. People buying homes. I have to shout out Ugodre and his Talknomics podcast. I've shared that thing everywhere. You guys had a 1-hour conversation about electricity, and the tagline, the caption they put on the YouTube link was, a power expert says he doesn't think we'll see 24/7 power in his lifetime. You want to clear that up?
Thank you for bringing that up, right? It wasn't within a context.
Yeah.
The way the power sector is treated, Nigeria is treated as a single unit.
Yeah.
So guess what? We have a unitary tariff structure. Everybody's paying 209 band A, 62 naira band B and co. Either you live in Maiduguri, Lagos, Enugu, and thereabouts.
Yeah.
In that instance, Nigeria will never have 24-hour power.
Right.
What I said is, you would find out that subnationals will hit 24/7 power faster than the whole federation.
Yeah.
The second thing is that Nigeria is a vast country. The power challenges in Maiduguri will require a different perspective to solve than the power challenges in Bayelsa.
Right.
So by the time you start to address power situations from a smaller level, you find out that you solve it. Take, for instance, MTN, when they came to this country, they didn't say they would blanket the whole country with cell sites. Yeah. They picked... They chose. They picked the part that they will make more revenues, and from those revenues, they expanded. So when you say, no, Nigeria must have 24-hour power at the same time, it's not in my lifetime. But I know Lagos will have 24-hour power before the rest of Nigeria, before the whole country has. And that's how you make sure Nigeria has 24-hour power.
Oh, I could stretch this conversation. Okay, wait, real quick. See, let me land on, let's end on that point. Lagos is the commercial capital of Nigeria. All the businesses are here. They are headquartered here, excuse me. They don't make their money from oil, they make money from taxes. So how would other states, I don't want to mention that, when I do that, they say I'm picking on them, but in the other regions of the country that are not as well off as in Lagos, how will they attract investment? How's that going to work out?
So here's the thing. I keep saying that everybody uses energy.
Right.
Whether you're in the most rural community, you must either burn firewood or something. Yeah. So you need energy. So you buy energy. Yeah. So at some point, you find out local investors who pick what works for them. So the investors who will come to Lagos may not necessarily be the guys who will go to Benin Kebbi.
Gotcha.
But the people in Benin Kebbi need power.
Yeah, they need power.
So somebody will put in something that was maybe like a mini grid or something, and it will make the revenues. Yeah. Provided that people understand they have to pay for that power. And I think people know. So I don't have an issue. I have no fear that states won't be able to attract investment. What I'm concerned is with that the federal government do not put impediments to the abilities of states to develop the electricity market. And we're seeing one very big impediment. The recent proposed amendment to the Electricity Act.
Right, I saw that.
That amendment is
a problem.
Is a backdoor review of the Constitution. That amendment seeks to make NERC have overriding powers over state electricity markets.
Yeah.
That amendment seeks to enforce one single unit, one single entity to enforce electrical implementation of electrical standards. And you're like wondering, why?
You're taking us back.
You're taking us back.
Yeah.
That amendment seeks to make NERC the entity to set consumer tariffs
for states. So you want state freedom. Let the states do the Electricity Act has said it. Let the states do
the
their
Electricity
thing.
Act is just 2 years old. Why are you amending now?
Already.
Can we allow this thing work? Let's walk through the teething issues, which Enugu State thankfully has brought out a conversation. And that's how you solve the problem. But you don't go amending a law behind the state's back, by the way.
Exactly.
Because first reading, second reading
didn't happen with their
knowledge.
Gotcha. Look, I wish I could keep you for longer. We're out of time. Odion Omonfoman, CEO, New Hampshire Capital Ltd, Power Sector Advisor, thank you so much for an informative conversation. We appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.